Welcome to another weekly featured business, brought to you by Visibility Impact and your host, James Moffat, where he will gracefully take our featured guest on a personal and business journey and stories that will inspire, educate, and engage you.
Hello, and welcome to another Friday Featured Business brought to you by Visibility Impact and your host, myself, James Moffat. Today we have our 151st guest.
Well,
Gaelle
not
Devens.
bad. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Bit of a cold, so please excuse me if I sound a bit nasally today.
It gives a nice little twist to your normal way of talking. It's fine.
Oh, yeah. Okay, well, let's see how we get before I lose my voice or anything. So we've met already through our book club, right? Because I'm taking 11 previous guests on a journey to write a chapter in a book and to share their story. And with their publisher, Publishing Mastery, we met because there's other authors there as well. So nice to meet fellow authors. So we'll come on to the book later, but is this your first book?
Yes, and it's still in the process. I am an author in the making, as we say. I'm at the editing stage of the book, so I cannot even call it a book yet.
Right, but you know the topic?
Yes, I know the topic. I've been working on it for a few years. Actually, when I was pregnant with twins, I decided to write my book, and that was about 4 years ago. Yes, it sounds like a long time, but when you have twins in your life, time flies. As you know, James, I think you have twins as well. And yeah, I started working on the book when I returned to the corporate world. After giving birth to my twins, I said, okay, I have a dream, and my dream is to become a leader that can do coaching for teams and so on. So I started to put my thoughts on paper, and at the same time to go back to school whilst I was on maternity leave to have my executive coaching certificate with ISCF. And so through the process, I had to face myself and my shadows, but I was able to as well learn on how to put thoughts on papers. I started writing them without thinking I would write a book, but a new way of working where you can bring meaning and purpose to the workplace, but as well enhance performances. And so I started to put everything on paper, and then I went back to work, and I had no time to continue it, but I had time to actually practice it with my teams. So I started designing workshops and programs to really help teams and individuals in the workplace to find meaning, to find flow. Flow is, the zone where you want to be in, because it's when you feel at your best and you are at your best and you produce your best work. And often in the workplace, we all think about performances and we focus only on that. And you cannot get to performances unless you focus on your people and provide them with a sense of purpose. So this is what I've been trying to do. I'm not there as a coach. I'm not there as a HR person. I was there as a leader in terms of direct to consumer. So everything that relates to reaching your sales target and enhancing your customer experiences and developing your teams in the field, the people that sell. But I realized very early on in my life, when I was in New York City leading the network of all the boutiques for a watch brand, that you can't get your sales target month after month unless you focus on your people. So that's the background story as to why I started to shift the way I was working and leading. And yeah, so that's the topic of the book. And the book in itself, I had two parts. I had the part on the individual and the part on the team. So then when we met Pauline, I was introduced to Pauline by a very dear friend of mine. He said, okay, the book is too rich, so you have to split it. So now I have split the book, and I'm going through all the editing process. You know the feeling. It's driving me absolutely insane because you have to, it's almost like you're a surgeon, you're a doctor. You have to look at your work with no feelings, no sense of attachments, and just like cut out and okay, stitch back a part that is not going in that part and so on. So I'm learning a lot. And at the same time, you have to continue writing some parts that made no sense because when you wrote it, it fit in, but now it doesn't fit it anymore. So it's a long process, but it's an exciting one. And that's where I am at. And hopefully I will finish it by the end of the year. That's the aim.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, so you touched on quite a number of things there, which we will elaborate a bit more on as we go through. Yes, I do have twins as well. So my twins, similar to you, a boy and a girl, but their birthday was last week, so they're 8.
Happy birthday, 8.
And their bigger brother, who's 11, was his birthday the day after.
Oh my goodness! Quite the timing.
Yeah, I mean, I say this story a lot. My brother and his daughter on the 14th of January. Then the twins on the 15th, and my elder son on the 16th.
Okay, so it's a January birthday month.
Yes, exactly. So straight after Christmas is birthdays.
Yeah.
At least get them over with then.
Yes, our twins are the 20th of November, so we do birthday and Christmas. So same as you, but different.
Yeah, so yeah. I mean, as we live in Switzerland as well, and we will touch on that in a minute. We'll talk about languages in a minute. So let's just move on. The book. So I mean, as you said, I mean, within our group, there's 11 different authors, so co-authors, and some of them have written books before.
Yeah.
So they have an idea of the kind of the structure, the layout, and everything else, and you have a start, middle, and an end, and what you want to end with and conclude, and kind of your desired outcome that you have in mind.
Yeah.
And others never written a book before, so it's a massive learning curve. And you're right, you can write lots of things down. I mean, we're in our final stages now. We're in the book preparation, as in the cover and everything else. So even the title now, we're actually having second thoughts about the title, because it was called The Essence of Being Human. And it's about 11 different stories from magical people from around the world. But we're struggling with that now. So there's so many revisions you do. That's the hard bit.
Yes.
I don't mind the writing, but then putting it into a structured way that actually makes sense and you actually get the best out of the words that you use is the hard bit.
Yeah.
And I'm on my 15th version, right, which is not a lot compared to some. Some are like 20, 30 revisions, and that's the bit that's driving me crazy. I just want it finished.
Yeah, I can relate to that. It's almost like I compare it to giving birth, it's just at one point you just want them out. You want the process to be finished and you want to start the next part of the journey. So I can relate to that because you keep on working on it, editing it, and it's just endless. But I guess think about the satisfaction you are going to experience when you see finally the book cover and the book on the shelf and the book being ordered. So that's what I'm trying to concentrate on, to think of that stage, and that gives me the motivation to keep on going, I guess.
Yeah. I don't want to dwell too much on the book, but it is definitely a roller coaster ride.
It is.
I mean, you start off all enthusiastic, then you go through that kind of the doldrums where you just kind of gone blank.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's a learning process, right? You learn about yourself.
Yes.
Life every day goes on, so there are new things, new thoughts that you want to put in. So at one point, it's a discipline to have with yourself. Where do you keep on adding? Where do you stop? And, no longer than this week, my partner, who I love the most, he's always supporting me and everything. But he said to me, "Oh, this book is taking an awful long time." And because it's true, I started it, 3.5 years ago. It takes its time, but at the same time, you work. At the same time, you have a family. At the same time, you have to have a social life. So you put the book in places where you can work on it, right? And what I learned is that the mindset you need to have is when you're writing, you have to have a specific environment and it's creative and you're in a different time and space. And when you edit, you have to be in that mindset of editing. I cannot enter, if I don't feel it, I cannot edit the book. I need to be in the specific zone to edit it. So, and it's not easy to always find that zone when you have your day-to-day. So it's very interesting. So yes, it takes time, but at the same time, I think it's great because it teaches us resilience, and you just have to go through it. And maybe the next book will be done much quicker.
Yeah, I hope so, because we plan on a second book as well, and a third.
I saw that. Congratulations.
And so from other previous guests, I asked them in the questionnaire that I sent out, would you like to be featured in a book? And they say yes. And I think, well, I've already got a list of people already, but I don't want to do anything yet with them until we finish this first one.
Yes, I understand.
And there's a massive learning curve and lessons learned as well, what we could do better, what we could do different. And it's really not easy. I mean, you think managing your own book on a one-to-one, imagine that with 11 people, 11 different personalities, availabilities and everything else. I could write a book on that.
Yeah, but maybe you should write a third book.
I've also got my
how to get a book with so many people.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but you're right. I mean, out of this, it's definitely, you learn a lot about yourself.
Yes.
You kind of go on that inward journey because you're exposing a lot of vulnerability about you and also things that you wouldn't normally share, but they naturally seem to come out.
Yeah.
And I just look at everybody is writing more about them in a very deep and personal way. Now, I never asked for that, but that's just naturally coming out. And it's kind of like a self-help group now, in the way that you're learning so much more about the person than you ever imagined before, because you're learning about maybe their job, their interest in that. But now doing this, it's quite deep. But anyway, congratulations on that. Let us move on. So you mentioned Switzerland. So let's kind of just take you back a little bit so the audience know a bit more about you. So you are Swiss.
Yes, born and raised in Switzerland, in Valais. It's a small state next to the Geneva Lake, Lac Léman en français. So I'm born in that area of Switzerland, and I stayed there maybe until I was 15 years old. And all my life I had the desire and want to explore the world and meet people and see different cultures and so on. And I then left for Indianapolis to go as an exchange student in a high school and experience the American life. I love that. I always thought that what you see on movies is actually fiction, but it was reality, like the prom queen night and pig festival and driving in the truck and going to Dairy Queen and eat pizzas on the parking slots and all of that. So it was amazing. I really experienced what you see in the movies and all the athletes and the pom-pom girls and all of that. I mean, I had never seen anything like that in my life. It was a great experience. I put on 1 kilo each month, so I came back very fat from the US. And my parents, when they came to visit me the first time around, didn't recognize me. So they passed straight next to me at the airport and didn't stop by. And then when I said hi, my mom's reaction was priceless. Oh my God, what did you do? What happened to you? She put me straight on a diet, of course. But it was quite difficult because, at the time, that was many, many, many years ago, more than 20 years ago, there was not really a lot of options. It was either, burgers, pizza, or, French dressing, salads, and so on. So it was interesting to be on a diet with such a local diet. And yeah, and then after that, I came back, and then since then, I've been experiencing many different places, either as a student when I went back to San Francisco to do my master's degree, or get my first job in New York City because I wanted to work in advertising industry because at the time it was cool and everyone wanted to do that. And I had always dreamed of having a Starbucks in my hand and pushing a door on Madison Avenue where all the agencies are located. So that was quite an experience. But, New York City seems very glamorous. And then the reality hits you very hard because the rents are crazy and the salaries are not high. So I ended up working as a hostess on the weekend in the restaurants to cover the rent, on top of having the Monday to Friday job in the advertising agency. And I love that. But at the time, you feel like, okay, now it's maybe I need to have a little bit of a breather because I'm just working and not really enjoying New York City. So I will come back when I can actually have a little bit more money, right? And then I went back to Switzerland for a few years. And the company I was working with at the time in FMCG, fast-moving consumer good, transferred me to London. From there, I stayed in London and transferred to fashion and luxury at Ralph Lauren for a few years. And then I embarked on a 12-year journey with a watch brand that sent me from Hong Kong to New York back to Switzerland. Yeah, and so I saw many different cultures.
Wow. So you're not a typical Swiss girl.
Well, depends what you define by typical Swiss girl. I'm very Swiss at heart. I like rules. I like orders. I like our lakes and our mountains. But I guess I needed to explore the world, So in that sense, maybe it's Swiss, maybe it's not Swiss. I don't know.
So now you've seen the world, or part of it anyway, and now you're back in Switzerland.
Yes.
Have you got itchy feet to go somewhere else, or you feel happy now that you've done that and Switzerland's your home?
Yeah, I often ask myself the question because I had itchy feet for so many years. I've lived as an expat for almost half my life. But now with the twins and my parents being around, I came back because I wanted to be close to my family. When I was abroad, I was calling my mom every day. I'm very close to them. So strangely enough, I left always heartbroken because I was leaving them behind, but always excited to explore. And at one point, I never thought I would come back to Switzerland. I never thought it would happen to me because I was sure I would stay abroad. And then one morning I woke up and I knew I wanted to be back home. And something happened in me. I wanted to be back home. I wanted to be close to my roots, to my families. And I don't think I want to go somewhere else now. My husband is desperate to travel again because he's from London, and Switzerland has a lot of good sides, but as you know, it has many rules, and it's an organized country, and it's not English speaking and so on. So he would love to go and explore somewhere else. And I don't think I'm ready yet.
Yeah, I know how he feels because I'm in Switzerland, been here for 18 years, and it wasn't my first stop. I spent 5 years in the Netherlands before that.
Yes.
And then I was living in London. And then prior to that, Brighton, then as a kid, Newcastle. And I was born in Edinburgh in Scotland. So a few changes. And we're not finished yet either.
Yes.
So we're moving.
Yeah, you were saying earlier.
Moving country. So we've had our experience of Switzerland. It's time to move on. So, but we talked about just prior to the show about languages as well. So when you have, particularly in a country like Switzerland that speak 4 official languages,
yes,
let alone all the dialects, right? Particularly from the valleys,
Yes.
right? I mean, the Valais is quite unique, but also the dialects of the Swiss German parts, though
Yeah.
where I am, I mean, I don't understand a word the kids are saying. I
Yeah.
mean, my high German is bad enough, but when it's Swiss German and particularly local, like Bandutsch, right?
Berndeutsch.
Yeah, I have no idea. I just smile.
Yeah, well, it's hard to catch. Actually, I'm not typical Swiss, you see, to answer your question, because a typical Swiss person would speak their mother tongue and fluently German or Italian. And I'm ashamed to say that I don't have that. I lost my German in the process. But I tried, and I can relate to the local dialect story that you're experiencing, because one of my first internship was in Bern, where you are now, thinking very proud of myself. Well, I learned German since I'm very young, 𝗙𝗨𝗘𝗏, so of course I can do an internship in Bern and speak German. It's fine. And oh my God, the reality hit me very hard on the first day because I could not understand anything. I felt like I never learned any German, so that was quite an experience to work in this advertising agency, not really understanding that what they were saying. Luckily, one of or two of the people were from the Romandie, French part of Switzerland, where I'm from. So that was making it a bit easier. And you just have to throw yourself in the process and go with the flow, right? Try. And each day you add a few more words or a few more understanding, and then it gets a little bit easier. But it was never smooth. I will not lie. It was never smooth. Unless it was 𝗙𝗨𝗘𝗏, it was never going to be easy.
So in the region that you're in, no,
Yeah.
it's not definitely not easy. There's other region that you're in. What's the language?
So now I'm in Vaud, in Lyon, close to Geneva. So that's French. And Valais, where I am from, which is Bas-Valais, was French. And if you go up to the mountains, then it's Swiss German again. And in Switzerland, the fourth language is Romanche, right? It's a mix. And
Yeah.
you have different parts where it's spoken, but that's another story altogether. Although I had a colleague at work that blew my mind. You know, sometimes when you start talking with people, you discover there's something about them you didn't know. And he's from Zurich, but grew up speaking Romanche. So he's one of the only person that I know who speaks fluent Romanche and has taught it to his kids and so on. So it's, Swiss, you hear of Romanche, but you never experience it in your day-to-day.
Exactly. So I didn't realize that either. So, I mean, when they said four languages, I said four. And I know like
Yeah.
the German, French, and Italian. What
Yes.
was the four? And people said Romanche. And it's basically a Latin,
Yeah, based.
but it quite bastardized in the
Yeah.
way it's got lots of influence from other languages as well.
Yes, it does. Yeah, it's quite particular. It's difficult to really express how it sounds like because it's a mix of many things.
Yeah. I always thought the Valais was kind of this really Swiss German, but I mean, it depends on where you are.
Yes, it's split in two. So you have what we call Bas-Valais, which is the lower end side, closer to the lake. French, we have a border with France, right? So, and then on the other side you have Vaud. So that's French spoken. And then as of, starting around Sion and above, it's called Haut-Valais, and that's where you start to have the Swiss German.
Right. Okay. Not difficult for a country that speaks so many different languages. And the second language is not normally English. It's like, as you were saying, it depends on where you border.
Yeah. Yeah.
So with my kids, I mean, at school, I mean, it was High German. I mean, the street language is Swiss German, and then French, and then English. And luckily, they speak English at home, so they already know the English bit, and Portuguese. So I mean,
4 languages.
they already speak 4 languages. I mean, so well, Swiss German, High German, French, Portuguese, and English. There's like 5 languages.
Yeah.
It amazes me.
Fantastic.
Really amazes
Great
me.
start in life, isn't it?
It is. It is really is, because my language skills are shockingly bad. And I think it all depends on your upbringing. And we were never forced to learn any second language. I mean, so we think, well, English is the one that everybody else should speak. And it's a mindset and mentality. But when you start living abroad, you think, why didn't I learn another language?
That's true.
And I know you're not too old to learn. It's just that some people are great with languages and other people aren't. And I think I'm in the aren't so good.
And it takes a lot of effort and time, and it's frustrating in the process. Yeah. But your kids are lucky.
They're very lucky because they can have multiple conversations with different kids at the same time, and they can comprehend it all, and they can answer back in the multiple languages. I think, how do they do that? Right.
It's interesting because when our twins started to speak, I was wondering how it was going to play out, because the dad speaks English, I speak French. So family life is in English. And I always see these kids that can jump from one language to the other without any second thoughts, right? It's just like natural. But I was wondering in the brain, I was trying to visualize the process on how you learn that as a very young child. And at the beginning, it's chaotic, like they say one word in English, one word in French. It's a mix of everything. I'm not even sure they understand their different languages. But then as time goes by, it's so natural. It's amazing to witness the evolution on the language on the child front, right? They start separating it. They started to turn to me, speak in French. They turn to the dad, they speak in English, and it's mind blowing. And it's not even taught, It's just like, okay, that's how it goes.
It's amazing what you can absorb as a child.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're not able to read and write. Yeah, no. You understand and you compute it in your head.
Yes.
And it all works out. I mean, my kids amaze me. They amaze me in the way that they can speak very broad Swiss German, kind of with the guttural kind of way that they speak. But then they can switch to a language like English that you don't have any of that.
Yeah.
And I think, I mean, how do they do that?
Yeah.
But anyway,
it's a gift.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, we do bedtime storytelling with the kids, right? And I ask them what language they want like stories in, and I mean, normally they want in Swiss German. That's what they feel comfortable with. But I have to do it in English. But I mean, they're amazing. But anyway, as you know, as the twins get older, you'll see, and it's really nice having a boy and a girl twin.
Yeah, you can, sometimes you ask yourself, are we taught or is it from birth? Certain things. And I think I have really stereotypes in our children, because he only loves everything goes fast, that is big, that is car or engine related, and only wants blue. I never taught them that, and she wants unicorns, pink, and everything that is about cooking and babies, and I'm completely in shock, because I never said, okay, the babies are for you and not for your brother. But it's just they chose their things from very early on. I don't know if your twins were like that, but for us, it's been two stereotypes: the very girly and the very boy-like.
Yeah, no, I like that. I mean, the oldest brother, I mean, he went into all the blue and everything else, so his room was painted blue. And then when we had the twins, my younger son, he wanted blue. And then my eldest son said, no, you can't have blue because that's my color. So he kind of settled for green.
Yeah.
Right? And I kind of feel sorry for him because he wanted blue as well. So, yeah. But my daughter is very into, like you said, the unicorns, the Barbie dolls, the pink room, and girly things.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting.
Not that she isn't also a tomboy, but that's another story. I mean, she used to have a fear of everything. She wouldn't go out the house. She didn't have any friends. and I introduced using some of my speciality in a bedtime story about addressing fear, and it completely cured her. And now she's got tons of friends, that everybody loves her. She's yeah, having a great time. But she also does things. I mean, she didn't do any sports because she feared everything. And she does all the sports, and she does horse riding now. And the funny thing was, we were on holiday and she wanted to do horse riding. So we went to a stables, and they had plenty of horses for all of us. And said to our brothers, "Do you want to do horse riding?" And they said, "No, they're scared." And then my daughter said to me, she said, "Daddy, why don't you tell them the story?" Right? Because it helped her overcome the fear. And I said, "No, I'll have to tell them one day," right? But they wouldn't do it. They were scared. But she just gets on this
That's
horse
fine.
and yeah, yeah. Anyway, kids are amazing. I love them.
Very resilient.
You should do bedtime storytelling with them. It takes it to another level.
We already do since they are very young,
Yeah,
since
record them.
2 months
Do
old. So they choose their book. They tell me which one they want every night, and then they want new ones, and they
Yeah.
like a book that has different stories. So
Yeah.
it's the same character that has different things happening to him. So it's cute. They are learning a lot. And then they go to swimming pool, and they want to do the same that the character is doing in the book. So they learn a lot through bedtime stories.
Absolutely. The thing is, we started with our kids, which is regular books like the Mr. Men books,
Mhm.
right? So you got Mr. Strong, Mr. Tall, Mr. Small, Mr. Bounce, Mr. whatever. And my elder son, he said, he said one day, "Daddy, why can't I have stories about me and my adventures?" So we did write actually our first book. It's a children's story book. It's
Very nice.
the Marvelous Adventures of Tom and Doodoo Going to the Moon. And it's amazing because it's his story, it's his book, right?
So
And
you already have an author in the house.
sorry?
You already have
Yes, yeah.
in
So
the house.
he is an author, because now what we do is we audio record them all their stories, and we have like 400 plus stories now. And when you do it with the twins, we did them together. So amazing. And actually, there's one of the authors who's an illustrator in the book group, who's going to be my illustrator, and we're going to do something together, and all the recordings we're going to make into books.
Fantastic.
So there'll be hundreds of marvelous adventures.
Coming up soon.
Well, coming up soon. All the stories are there. They just need to be illustrated.
Yeah. But at least you have the stories and the content. So then it's a matter of packaging it.
But the thing is, the audio recordings are priceless because they're raw, right? And we get disruptions, like my wife might say, "You're supposed to be putting the kids to bed," and like half an hour later, I'm still reading bedtime stories because I get so involved in them as well. I love it, right? It's magical, right? And it's supposed to be a 10-minute thing, get the kids to bed, and right, still doing it. Right. So you get all of these disruptions. You hear someone shouting up the stairs like, "Put the kids to bed," right? Or "Aren't you finished yet?" Or something, right? But that makes it beautiful. And then sometimes we break out into song. Not that I sing, but we try.
Becomes a family story.
Yeah, but the thing is, you then create, for parents, you create this inseparable bond with your kids, because you'll take them on their magical journey and their imagination and their creativity, and it's so beautiful. And or that you steer it because you want it to will be nice and good. Anyway, let's get back to you. So now, work-wise, so you experienced like a lot of different jobs, and you traveled the world a lot. What was it like in Hong Kong?
Interesting. I had never gone to Asia, so was my first experience, and I was in London at the time. Didn't feel like I was going to move away from London, and all of a sudden an opportunity came up to go to Hong Kong. So I went for an interview, and I thought to myself, am I crazy enough to do that? Single, moving to Hong Kong. And the reality was that it was so different from what I have experienced before that I loved it. It was every day I was learning something new about the city, the culture, the history, about myself. I lived in many places, but I never felt homesick. Or when I did feel homesick, I could find a place in the city that would bring me back to my roots, a croissant or whatever, like just something that makes you feel better. Hong Kong, you can't escape it. When you are homesick, for me, I was really homesick. So I learned to cope with that aspect. And the city itself is beautiful, efficient. Everything works well. You have scenes for everyone. Everything that you want to do, you have the outdoors. You have the city lifestyle, and work-wise, it was really interesting because it was very challenging. I was at the time in charge of marketing and communication for a watch brand, and it's so fast, like you think New York City is fast and is the city that never sleeps, but Hong Kong is in retail and luxury. You have to go fast. You have to be the first one that moves ahead of the competition. Otherwise, you miss the massive opportunity. So real estate is at its prime at the time when I was there. You have to chase the real estate. You have to go faster than the other one to move. You have to hire the best teams to be competitive with the others. So, and there is no time to think, and we have a fair when you work in watchmaking that is called Watches and Wonders. It's based in Geneva in Switzerland. And it takes a long time to build your booth, right? For example. And then they decided to export the concept of Watches and Wonder to Hong Kong. And what you would do in weeks in Switzerland, you have to do it in days, in Hong Kong. And so you have an army of people that comes and build everything. So I was always, it was mind-blowing to see the way of working, how it's different, how you have to be quicker, faster, how you pre-build everything and you arrive and you put it in one place. And, the turnaround of anything is much faster. So that was interesting from a learning experience. And from a personal experience, I met amazing friends. I discovered, I knew I liked Asian food, but I had never experienced, Asian food on a daily basis. And that was fantastic. I can only recommend it.
So how long were you there for?
About 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that was after London.
Yes, so I was in London working for Ralph Lauren, and then I had this opportunity, which I said I didn't want to go at the beginning. I didn't feel like it was the right time for me to move. And I loved Ralph Lauren. I wanted to stay there. But then sometimes you have to explore, when you are prompted a few times, like go and have a chat with that person. If you are not completely oblivious to life, then you see it as a sign. I took it as a sign. I'm like, okay, they keep on asking me to go have a chat with that person. Maybe I should. And that was the best thing for me to do, because that person was in fact an amazing man in charge of the whole country, Asia Pacific, who had worked previously in one of the companies I had worked for in Geneva. And sometimes, or like I would say often in life, it's about encountering the right people on your life journey, and they put you on a new trajectory. And for me, he was that person that I needed at this time in my work life. He was amazing, one of the best boss I had. I learned so much from him, but at the same time, he gave me a lot of freedom as soon as the trust was there. And it was one of the best working experience I had. So yeah, it's, I would never have thought I moved, but it's not Hong Kong that convinced me. I didn't go for Hong Kong. I went because I wanted to work under his leadership.
All
and
right.
a brand. Yeah.
So in London, where did you live?
Notting Hill.
Ah, very nice.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. I lived in the East End. I
Very
li-
creative. Yeah.
in Bow in the East
Yeah,
End.
very nice. Yeah, I first lived in Southfields, and that was a little bit outside of London. And then the last few years, I moved to Notting Hill. So I
I
was
was near
to my,
Victoria Park.
yeah, very nice.
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah,
Yeah. Completely developed now. I mean, it's not like it was when I was living there.
yeah. No, everything changes so quickly in big cities. You go back a few years later, and it's no longer the same.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you have an English husband from London.
Yeah.
So did you meet him then?
No, no. I so when you have a professional career expat as a woman, it's the odds, right? Usually you follow the man in the relationship, who is the expat. And I was a woman being an expat on my own. I was single, and the relationships I had, they always failed. It was a disaster. And I thought to myself, I will never meet um, I'm so late in the process. I will never meet someone. I'm never going to have children. You go through all the negative thoughts, even though you're a positive person, but it's the fear talking, right? Like your children, you were talking about your daughter and having fear of doing sports. I had fear of not finding the man and not finding the love and not having children.
But
But
you look so young now.
thank you. But I'm not young anymore. I'm 44. I'm
No
soon
way.
45. Yes.
Really?
Yes.
If you'd said 30, I would have said, well, you're looking great for 30.
Oh, thank you. No, it was late. And so to answer your question, I met him in
All
Austin,
right.
Texas. I was working at a work event, and he was there with a client, and so I met him there.
So then after that, you kept in touch then.
Yes, so then we kept in touch because what we realized is that we both lived in New York City. So he was just there for the weekend, and I was just there for the weekend. We kept in touch. We became friends. And then a few years later, I moved back to Switzerland. And sometimes, in life, it's in front of you, but you don't see it. And then when a big change happens, it's when things are triggered, right? So I moved back, and then we both realized that actually we were missing each other. So we understood that something maybe was happening. So he took a flight and he came to see me, and 4 months later, he had moved his entire life from New York City to Switzerland, which is it was unexpected. And I was 40 years old at the time. So my message to all the ladies that are looking for love and thinking it will never happen to them, it's a mindset shift. The moment I said, I'm going back home to Switzerland, I'm going to have a family and I'm going to settle and everything will be fine, and I stopped fearing, then things happen magically. And I had no idea how, but it did. And
It's the
so,
universe.
yes, it's universe. You have to shift your mindset to see it from a place of gratitude as opposed to a place of fear. Because if you concentrate on the fear, it's a feeling of lacking. You're lacking love. You're lacking the relationship. You're lacking your children. But if you focus on a feeling of gratitude, like if it's already in your life, you completely change your perspective. And when you do that, then you unblock your own reality, right? Things happen. So I learned that in the process. It took me a long time, 40 years. I wish people realized that earlier. And as well, I learned that it's okay to feel like you always want to fix people. But that if you always want to fix people, when you fix people, they leave. And then I always thought it was about them. They are the one who are leaving me, And it took me many failed attempts to realize that why do I like fixing people so much? Why do I attract always the same, type of person into my life? So I did a lot of work on myself to understand that I needed to fix myself as well before I could fix other. And the aspect of myself that I needed to fix are actually what was attracting these people, right? So you need to fix yourself. You need to love yourself more, and to put your own boundaries down, because if you do that, then you don't let those people into your life, because you are the most important person for your life, right? Self-love. It all starts with that self-love. And as soon as I understood that, then, you know, as you said, universe started to conspire, and it went very quick, very quick. Like we started to have, I never thought he would ask me to have children, and you know, that quick. And then 4 months later, they were together. He suggested we start having children, and it was just very natural, easy for the first time in my life. Nothing was being questioned. It was just two people at the right time, in the right time and space, and you go with the flow. And you know, all my friends were always telling me it needs to be easy. I was, oh yeah, it's never easy. No, it needs to flow. It needs to be easy. You need to feel like it's, you don't have, you, of course you have to work for a relationship, but you don't have to work for the relationship to work at the beginning. And I never really relate to that, because I never had the chance to experience that. And then I experienced it.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so my message is never give up. It can happen at any stages in life. And when they tell you can't have children, it's true. Sometimes you can't have children. It doesn't work. But sometimes it does, you know, no matter what they tell you. So it's just about a journey of hope, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, we've got good friends that tried desperately to have children, and then they tried all of this treatment at the hospital and everything.
Yeah.
Couldn't get pregnant.
Yeah.
And then in the end, she got pregnant naturally.
Yeah.
And now they've got 3 kids.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But if it doesn't in the way that you thought you wanted to have children, there's so many other alternatives still, you know? And it's just, sometimes we have to be open as to leave the how to the universe, you know, just focus on really what it is that you want. And then the journey may take a different path, but the destination will be reached.
I think what you said definitely is the key. I mean, you can't focus on others until you fix yourself.
Yeah.
It's like the expression, like when you're in a plane, put your own oxygen mask on before you help others.
Yeah.
Because then you're not in a position to help others unless you've helped yourself.
Yeah.
So do that, and then you feel better, they feel better, and it just works out much better that way. So a lot of the time we need to take that inward journey, fix ourselves first, and then we're in a far better position to help others.
Yeah, and you know, when I was in New York City, I had asked for one of my amazing other boss. I was very blessed to have amazing mentors into my life. And I said, well, I want to take executive coaching because I want to learn to better myself, right? So, so he booked me this lady who was very famous for executive coaching in corporations in New York City. And the first question she asked me, she's like, well, if you have if you're in a plane, like what you said, you put the mask on you or on the other people? And my answer, without even thinking about it, I know it sounds silly now in retrospect, you know, is like, well, of course I save the other, you know. And she caught me out. She said, you know, it's because I didn't answer the traditional way, that I would save myself first. But, you know, I hated what she said to me at the time because it was so true, but I just didn't want to hear it. She said, how can you, if you save the others, you're already dead. Like, you can't heal anyone unless you look after yourself first, and so on. So it's, you know, sometimes it's true. You have to realize your defect mechanism, understand why it's there, what it means to you, and then address it, address your shadows, address your inner work. It takes a lot of time and a lot of courage, because you have to see aspects of yourself that you're not ready to sometimes integrate and deal with, you know. And And what I realize is often people that trigger you the most, they are the ones that are showing to your face unresolved issues. And we get angry and we have strong reactions, but in reality, we're not angry at them. We're angry at ourselves because we still haven't integrated that trigger point, for example, or worked on it. So yeah, life is a great teacher.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it helps you become more of that critical thinker as well. Because when you're presented with something like that question, you automatically think, well, I've got to help others. But it wasn't so much a trick question, it's the way that you think about the answer. I mean, the situation. And I think it's too easy in general to jump in and look at something in a silo kind of way and quickly make a comment without, first of all, having to think, taking a step back, scratch your head a little bit, right? And look at in a more of a holistic way. And think about, well, what was the question actually about? Because too many times I see it, you see it everywhere. People just jump in and throw comments, but they don't think about the bigger picture.
Yeah, that's true.
But I like what you mentioned earlier and about purpose in the workplace.
Yes.
And because I found that it was quite ironic because many years ago, Harvard, there's a what's that? There's a monthly edition of a Harvard publication.
Business Review.
Sorry?
Harvard Business Review. What is
Oh
it?
yeah, that's it. That's the one. That is it. Yeah. Many years ago, they did a study in the US about top 500 or so corporate companies on purpose in the workplace.
Yeah.
And they concluded after their study that none of them actually show purpose.
Yeah.
It's all about profit.
Yes.
And yeah, so yeah, I've seen it as well in the workplace. You think, what? You can have the most successful company, but you think, what is the purpose? What's there's kind of two parts to that, the purpose of the company and the purpose of the people that work in the company.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, corporations, I am from the corporate world and I thrive in the corporate world. I love it. At the same time, I thrive in personal development and by fear of being judged, spiritual world, right? But these are words that don't fit in the corporate world. So every time I say spiritual, everyone is like, not everyone, but a lot of people, it gives them itchiness. They're like, oh. And purpose for me is a word that is very strong, but it's a word that is quite scary because it's quite abstract and it's part of this spirituality, that search, that fulfillment that you want, that meaning in life that you seek and so on. And unless you take that path of development and self-reflection and that it becomes your day-to-day vocabulary, it can be quite esoteric in a way for some people that have never been exposed to it in the corporate place. So, but purpose is not scary. It's the alignment of your own career, professional aspirations with the purpose of the company. Is it, it's twofold, like you say, is the purpose of the company what it is? And then it's your career aspirations. Are they aligned with that purpose or not? Because if there is a misalignment, you already know that is going to be very difficult. And to find purpose in the workplace is as much on the individual that it is on the company, right? Or on the leader. Because if you are shown through the leader and through the company how your work contributes to the greater purpose of the company, then you find meaning and purpose because your contribution is actually valued and recognized, right? So it's not just purpose on its own, it's purpose as a holistic word. And purpose, you cannot concentrate only on purpose. You can only concentrate, for me, I'm working on the book, and the book has one of the explanation in it is that in order to reach peak performance, you need to go through a process of the 3 Ps. And the 3 Ps are first your people, then it's purpose, and then it's performance, because you cannot take them in isolation. If you take them in isolation, then you have a purpose-centric company, but that doesn't lead you to performance. If you concentrate only on performance, you cannot get there because your people are not cared for, right? So it's a pyramid base, and if you do that, then you can work on all the layers of the company. You work on your individuals, your team, and your organization as a whole. So the purpose is your North Star, is your destination, and your people are your foundation, and your performance is the output of these 3P working in integration. So that's what I'm working on, and that's what I'm trying to bring to the workplace, is not purpose on its own without looking at performances, because if you don't bring in performances, the corporate world will not speak to you, because you don't bring them any added value at the end. You know, you bring them the value, but you don't turn it into profit, like you said. So this is what I'm trying to pass on as a message, and inspire others to change the way they lead team, the way they manage corporations, and so on.
Yeah, I love it. And I've seen it in all the companies I've worked for. Yeah, purpose seemed to be something that's never discussed.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of ill feeling in companies.
Yes.
You either have toxic colleagues, bad bosses, or whatever. And you have to like take a step back and look at why is it like that? I mean, if you don't fit in there, then what is your personal purpose?
Mhm.
And if it doesn't align with the ethics of the company, you have to question, should I be working there anyway?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it's true. At the same time, it's often that people stay by fear of change. So
exactly.
you have a lot of people staying in roles, not being happy, or in flow, like I call it. You know, a flow at work is the holy grail. That's what you want to achieve. And they don't change because they always put it on the others, on the company, on the leader, on the manager, on the teams, but they never really question themselves. And the first step is the change always comes from within. No matter what change you want in your life, if you want a personal change, it's from within. If you want a company change, it's from within. You know, the work needs to be done intrinsically inside. And so a lot of people stay, they are not happy, but they are blaming the system because it's easier. But when you know your own purpose and your own desire and dreams, and you are not scared of making the fear is not preventing you to make the change, because you know that you're on your path, and your path will lead you to where you want to go, because you are planting the seeds of success for what it means to you, then you should not have any fear, because it will play out. But we're always stuck in this old mentality of, you know, it's a risk. I don't know if I will find another job. I need to work another year because I want to make more money. You know, you always want something. But at the end of the day, it's a very simple question. Am I happy? Am I in flow? Am I in a good place? And this is really what we should seek, you know, because you can have all the money in the world. If you are not happy, is it worth it? You know, you can be in a company because you want the ego of the title, but are you happy or are you not happy? You know, that's fundamental questions that we forget to ask ourselves, because in the workplace, you don't have time to think. You know, you don't have time to think. But when you know your purpose, then it becomes your destination. That's what you want to focus on. And you go back to reality. You break down the autopilot that we are in. You know, you stop the hamster wheel and you consider what is in front of you for what it is. You actually take time to think. So that's what we forget to do way too many times in the corporate world.
I completely agree. And you see that from years of experience working in different companies, because you aspire to give your best and the best performance and everything. But a lot of the time you can't, because you're either in the wrong job or it doesn't fit you.
Yes.
And the problem is, it's not the job, it's you. You need to discover a rediscovery of yourself and that inward journey to find out what are the things that you love. What do I love? What would I get out of bed for doing every day? What are the things that really drive me and have that passion and that motivation, that's something meaningful, something I'm good at? What am I good at? And then once you discover these, which I went on this journey back in 2016, when I lost my corporate job, and I found a coach that I thought was a business coach, and she said to me, she was a life coach actually, well, both. But she said, there's nothing wrong with your CV or anything. Why aren't you getting a job? And I said, because I'm applying for jobs I don't really want. And she said, what do you want? I said, I don't know. That's the problem. And she said, well, the problem is you don't know who you are. So what sort of question is that? And she said, all right, I'm going to ask you one question and just answer that question. She said, who are you? I said, well, that's easy. Of course, I'm James. And she said, I didn't ask you what your name was. I know you're James. It says on this form, James is coming to see me. Right? I didn't ask your name. I asked you the question. Answer the question. Who are you? I said, the father of 3 children. And she said, I didn't ask that question either. Right? And every time I tried to answer, she said, no, 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 no. And then the problem is, she said, you don't know who you are. And I thought, I don't. I have no idea who I am. And I think what you're saying with purpose as well, I never knew my purpose. I knew I wanted something better, but I didn't know what it was. I knew I had something more to give, but I didn't know the gifts I had to use.
Yeah.
And that inward journey, after I did this was based on the philosophy of Ikigai. I then became an Ikigai coach myself. And then I blended it in with other things. You talked about fear. You're in that comfort zone at work and you don't want to leave that comfort zone because that's what you know. It might not be the best job. You might have toxic colleagues or a bad boss. You might have all of this kind of depression going to work and anxiety. And when you see the boss, it gives you the shivers, but you don't know anything different because you don't know what it is that you want.
Yeah.
So you're not living your life that's meaningful and purpose driven. And that fear, you can overcome that fear once you understand emotional intelligences, like my daughter did.
Yeah.
And then there's the persona type of people. Why are some people particularly good at certain things, but worse and useless at something else?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that they're bad. It just means that that's me. I'm not good at everything, right?
It's true. And what you are saying about this search for identity of who we truly are, when you're in a corporate world, you hide behind your work persona. Well, I'm a junior manager at P&G, for example. So you live your life through your title. It defines you in a way. But when that's taken away from you, you have to, if you're not having done that work before, you have to reinvent yourself. You have to, okay, what is my identity now? If I go and meet people, how do I introduce myself? What is my life story? What am I going to share? Because, it's so funny. Wherever you go, people will always ask you who you are, is what you do. Where are you from? It's very specific questions. You never have to ask yourself that question. But who you are is touching to the core of yourself, like your true essence. And unless you know that purpose, you can't answer that question. That's the reality.
Yeah, it's true because, I'm sorry if I'm interrupting, but it's true in the way that when you meet people, either an event, a dinner party or whatever, and you ask them what they do, or if you ask them who they are, they'll tell you about their job.
Yeah.
Right. And I think, well, I'd never asked that question.
Yeah.
And it's their opportunity. I mean, in sales, I did many sales and marketing, it's my background, but in sales, you've got so many seconds to hook the person, to want to know more, to engage with them, to excite them enough that they want to ask you, tell me more, particularly if you're trying to sell something. You're not trying to sell them something on the first date, and you're not trying to force fit something, but you're luring them in. So it should be the same in the way when someone asks you, just out of curiosity, I could ask friends or people, what do they do? And they tell me about their boring job. Or I'm an account manager. And I think, okay, for what type of company? And you're trying to extract that out to a point that you give up. You can't be bothered anymore. But if they said something that was just a quick 20 seconds or something of what they did, I help people in the workplace find their true purpose or something, then now that's made me excited and like, Oh, yeah. How do you do that?
Mhm.
Right? That would be my next question. If you just said that I'm a consultant or I'm a coach, I think, so what?
Yeah.
And it goes to the so what attitude. Like, particularly, I mean, I've helped lots of startups with their pitch. So they've done this long pitch and everything, and I'm the judge, and I'm thinking, so what?
Yeah.
If it gets to that so what point, you can't be bothered.
No, it's true. It's like in sales, what you're saying is true, right? When I was looking after all the teams in the US to sell a lot of products, at one point I told them, I want you to stop selling. They're like, well, we're paid to sell. I'm like, no, you are paid to create magical memories and to bond with whoever is giving us their time and come to the shop. Okay, it was a bit extreme because at the end you still have to reach your monthly target, and that's not what I was saying. I'm an overachiever, so of course I wanted to reach the targets, but what I wanted them to understand is a sale cannot happen unless you create that bonding, that human relationship, that genuine interest into who you have, and to move away from a transactional type of working to an emotional selling, where you really are two people that are genuinely spending time together, and then comes the magic of the sell because it's part of the process, right? So, but it takes time to shift the things. It takes time to shift the ways of working. It's the same in the corporate world. What I'm hoping with this book is that we can transition from a kind of top-down vertical type of leadership to one that is a bit more horizontal, transversal, and inclusive in the process. You were saying sometimes you have mismatch, and that's why you are not happy in the workplace, you are not at the right job, and so on. Yes, it's in a way your own work that you have to do with yourself, but as well, I think it's a work of the leader and the companies that can guide people into that type of alignment. And so that's real purpose.
No, true. And I mean, like titles, I was a title chaser. I mean, I went from an engineering background to then moved into sales. Oh, I mean, sales. I'm a sales guy now. Wow. Then I wanted to be the head of sales. Then I wanted to do marketing. Then I wanted to be the VP of a region. So I'm the VP of Europe for sales and marketing with an international company. Woohoo. I've got the title. But then when you lose your job, the title means squat. It means nothing. And at the end of the day, my title is, which you see on my LinkedIn profile, is storyteller.
Yeah, I saw.
That's what I am. I'm a storyteller. I mean, whether it's in everyday life, in everything, in absolutely everything we do, is stories. And we underestimate their value because we think storytelling is wishy-washy, but it's not.
It's not, because you found your purpose and your title is fitting to what you want to do. However, for example, let's say you lose your job, but you still want the corporate world. What you have worked for and your titles are still a baggage that you can carry on for your next job that will help you. So, and if you didn't have maybe all your past experiences and all your titles, would you have been able to be the storyteller today? Maybe not. So I think, you chase the title because you chased experiences, you chased different stories, you chased different environment, and that led you to the storytellers that you are today. Without that, maybe you would not. I'm a title chaser. I'm not going to lie. I'm still in the corporate world. I've made it to a certain level, and I want to have the next level, and I want to have, I want to chase that dream of mine, and I'm not going to give up. It's almost like I have to scratch it off my to-do list. That's how I function. But I know that's me. That's what drives me, right? Everyone has different drivers that carries us. Sometimes it's not title. It can be about you want to have different geographies, experiences, or whatever. But it doesn't matter at the end of the day because it's your journey. You make it what you want.
Exactly. And that's exactly what it is, the journey. I mean, if you're on the wrong train, you've got to get off at the next station and get on the one that goes to where you want it to go.
Yeah. And that's okay, because that wrong train had to bring you where you are at for you to make that crossroad.
Exactly. That's why you should look at life also for all the negative things that's happened. It's not really negative, it's learning.
Yeah.
And the disappointments that we've had, yeah, are learning. We weren't quite ready.
Yeah. And these are your biggest moments in life. It's where you can recalibrate your journey. You can rethink of what is happening and what you want. But it's easy to say, if you're not in it. Sometimes when you're in it, you just don't see it.
Yeah.
My parents, they always told me you will always know later why things happen. When you're in it, you're like, okay, it's chaotic, it's hurting, it's pain, it's raw, it's really not pleasant. And then you always make meaning of what happened. There is always a reason later on that shows you that it needed to happen for whatever reason it is. And that's the beauty of life. It's raw, it's painful, but it's beautiful.
It is.
Emotions.
Exactly. I mean, you have to feel that emotion at the time. You're upset, you're disappointed, you're feeling down. But then when you come out of it and you look back, you think that was the best thing that ever happened.
Yeah.
But you don't feel that at the time. But that's okay. You're okay to feel that pain.
Yes.
That makes us human after all. But anyway, so let's move on so what are you doing now? You mentioned also flow. So, I mean, have you got uh, uh, a project or something, a business plan or something that you're working on that you want to take to the corporate world?
Yeah, it's all part of the book for now. It's what my focus is on now. It's flow is that sweet spot. I'm not going to reinvent flow. That was, 𝗙𝗘𝗏𝗙𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗘𝗗, an Hungarian-American philosopher that came up with the concept. So I'm not going to claim it. Who am I to do so? But what I'm trying to do is to bring flow as a concept into the workplace and a new type of leadership that I call flow leadership, which is anchored in the process of finding flow at work through the 3 Ps that I mentioned earlier: people, purpose, and performance. So I am designing workshops, I'm designing individual and team assessments, processes, and so on, to help leaders bring their teams into flow at work, and their individuals within the teams to help them find flow at work. So yeah, that's my focus at the moment. I'm operating a transition professionally. So I will have a next professional challenge, soon. But meanwhile, that's what I'm focusing on, the book and all of that philosophy, I would say.
Okay. So with that and I mean, you'll be doing this independently, or you're looking for a company that would employ you to do this within the teams?
Yes, I would. I would look when I'm ready for companies to do it, to apply it within the teams. I already found someone who wants to come along with me on the journey, because what I realize is that it's a concept that really resonates with people nowadays once they have experienced it. At the beginning, they're a bit doubtful, what is it? It's just another workshop, another training. I don't have time. Anyway, training is always the least of the priority, because you have so many projects to run on a daily basis that you don't have time for coaching or training. So it's not easy to explain to people that it's not just another workshop or training, but it's actually helping them and their teams in the long run. But everyone says that, right? So I guess what people resonate with is the flow aspect, because it's about them and it's about no one else. And once people have experienced it, then they become the ambassadors, and then they want you to do it on their teams, So it's like a trickle effect, because it makes you feel good. It makes you feel seen, valued, recognized. You create synergies that you would never have thought of with the teams. So you enhance performances. You see it straight away. You can easily measure the flow index of an individual or a team. It should not become like an HR measure or a performance measure. It's about them. It's in between, the people that are running the workshop or the coaching and the employees and the teams, but it should never be used on the reporting front for the company. So it's very, you can trust the process in a way, and people like it. And then finding flow at work becomes like a quest. You want to be feeling good in the workplace. You spend 8 hours of your day at work, so let's make it count, and a lot of emotions are released when you do those workshops, because I started to do a lot of them, and it triggers emotions, because all of a sudden people are stopping their day-to-day. They are facing themselves and their realities. They are showing results on a piece of paper that make them become aware of the actual reality at work. And sometimes we lie to ourselves, because it's easier to go every day repeating the same thing and hiding our own reality and to say it's okay, than to actually admit that it's not okay, we're not doing well, So it's a kind of sometimes reality check for the people. So it triggers a lot of emotions, good or bad, and then you unlock the process, and then there is a whole process. So yes, I'll be looking for companies, I'll be looking for teams that believe in such a process. I come from sales, so you cannot expect to have the best employee experience if you don't create the best you cannot expect, the best customer experience if you don't create the best employee experience. It's, in a way, your EX is your CX. And as a company, we always focus on the product, the service, the performances. Or we look at employee experience through the eyes of HR. You're going to add perks and so on, but perks are not going to add anything unless you address the core of the reality of what people need. And it's very simple. It all starts with that. It's about the needs of the individual, the team, that are being addressed, yes or no. If they are not addressed, how you can address them so that they can give you performances. So you reverse, to sum up, I guess you reverse, as opposed to focusing on the output, which is your performance, you change the mold and you focus on the input, which is your people and your purpose, to get the best performance.
That sounds excellent. So you would typically focus on a particular industry sector?
No, because regardless of the product or the services, you have people that work together to produce or to deliver a service and so on. So the leadership is nothing else than focusing on people.
Okay.
And across industries.
Okay. And region?
No, open to everywhere.
And
if I can speak the language, or if people are willing to work with a translator. I did that in Japan, in Japan, when I delivered workshops, it was not easy. I don't speak Japanese. And Japanese philosophy and culture is very hard to break into when you are not from that world. So I had a translator, and they were all wearing their mask, and I was like, oh my God, I cannot break the ice. I'm not able to break the ice and to connect. And unless you connect and you create that bond, you cannot do the work. You cannot do it, because that means there is no trust, there is no bonding, and so on. So for an hour, I tried every single, possible way, the translator translating everything. I'm like, okay, it's going to be really difficult. I don't think I can do it. And then at the end, I said, I'm really sorry, but unless I get a smile from you, or a thumb up, or something that tells me you are connecting and reacting and so on, I can't continue. So give me a sign. Tell me if I should stay, if I should go, just do something, And so they had their mask, so I could not see their smile, but I could see the eyes starting to lift up and sparkle and so on. So yes, you can work in many different geographies with many different languages, as long as, you have the trust of the people that with a translator, it can work.
So this is very much face-to-face, in person, or it can be certain parts done online as well?
Certain parts are done online, and then the workshops are delivered in person.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds excellent. And yeah, how do people reach out and find out about this and what you're doing?
Yes, I'm in the early stages of everything. So I'm for now concentrating on the book. Then I have my LinkedIn and my website. My website is being updated as the book is being populated. And that's how they can reach out to me.
Okay. And the book will cover this as well?
Yeah, the book is only focused on that. And then the second book will be more about flow for you. So flow at work is really within the corporate setting. And it speaks to both the seasoned leader or the new joiner in a corporate world so that they can really learn how to navigate that world. And then the second book, Flow for You, is about the individuals and the process of finding flow in your life.
Okay. So the book could be a handbook as well.
Yeah, there is two aspects of it. There is I guess the reason why the book may be different because there are so many leadership books out there, and I don't pretend to be a very important figure in that world. I'm actually no one in that world. But the reason why I think maybe it could resonate with many is I have an approach that is maybe different, but I have a lot of pragmatic examples and exercises. So it's a kind of, it gives you it gives you the tools, it gives you the way to get there. It's not just theory. I have experienced it on teams as a leader and as a facilitator. And so that's what this book is all about. It's more pragmatic, I guess.
Excellent. Yeah, I think everybody needs what you're offering. I think this could definitely revolutionize the way that corporate companies, not just corporates, but all companies, actually look inwardly about their people and how they'll get more performance out of them by looking after them and really helping them extract the gifts that they have.
Yes, that's that. I mean, the word inward for me is everything. It all comes from within. The change needs to come from within as an individual, as an organization. And unless you put in the work and commit to it, you cannot get the results. It's changing the shift, right? You don't focus on performances, you focus on what you put in.
But I think exactly what you said is from your own personal experience that you've seen this in the companies that you've worked for, and the questions that you were asked about, like putting on your own oxygen mask, it gets you to think differently.
Yeah, it does. It does, and it helps you, and this lady, I will always remember, we met in a New York cafe, and I'm like looking at her and I'm like, I don't like you. Why are you telling me all these things now? You can never be a leader unless you put your own oxygen mask first. I knew she was right, but I was not how I was thinking because I was always thinking in a different way. So it's true. All these people, they come into your life, your own experiences. They make you who you are, and your own beliefs.
Exactly. It just reminds me of, I used to do a lot of LinkedIn training for people to get their profiles looking more than just a CV. And yeah, I would give them a hard time, not because I wanted them to have a hard time, but I had to get them to look at their profile from the viewer's point of view.
Yeah.
And I said that every section is there for a purpose.
Yeah.
And you're complicating and confusing the viewer.
Yeah.
And then it's like basically a shop window. Like if the shop window is decorated how I want to see it, you're enticing me to want to come in the shop. Yeah. But if the shop window doesn't display what I want to see, I'm going to walk past.
It's true. It's so true. It's true. It's a bit like editing a book, isn't it, James? Where you have to look as a surgeon and take out all the fluff that is not needed.
Exactly.
It's so painful.
So anyway, we could talk for hours, and yeah, we got so many things in common with the book, the twins, Switzerland, purpose, and many, and traveling, whatever. And yeah, you've been an absolutely fantastic guest. So in closing, have you got any kind of closing comments or advice or inspiring things you want to leave us with?
I don't have advice. I have a message of hope, I guess. So in life, it's all about planting the seeds of growing, for example, your own happiness or your own successes. And like you water a plant, it's not about digging it to see if the seeds are germinating or not, because that breaks the process, right? That means you don't have the trust. And when you take the soil away, it may damage the seeds. So it's same in life. It's plant the seeds of your own journey, how you want to see it, how you visualize it, and wait for it to happen and put all the things that you can on that journey to make it a success and to bring you happiness. So that's, I guess, the main message is wake up happy, go to work that you like, find meaning in life, where it doesn't... Meaning and happiness doesn't mean that you have to find a big title and a big job and a lot of money. It can be very simple, but find it, because that is what is going to make you experience life. And yeah, we're all work in progress. We have to become the best version of ourselves, and it's okay to be work in progress, because that gives you a lot of opportunities to try many things.
Yeah, I love that. And it's okay to have doubts and fears and everything else, because as long as you believe in yourself, you can overcome many obstacles. And yeah, I love what you said, that analogy, like putting the seed in the ground. We put the seed in the ground and we trust that it's growing. And then when we start to see it come breaking through the surface, then yeah, it's actually working. And this is the time. Sometimes we want something too quick.
Yes. And it's not the right time. You have different germination process, and you have to trust that it's coming out at the right time. Often we concentrate on how we get there, but the how is not really relevant, because you can plan a way and life is going to bring you in a different way. So what we need to be clear is the what, the intention. What is it that we're trying to achieve? What do we want? Do you know what you want? A lot of people don't know what they want. Just by asking ourselves, maybe that's how I will finish. Ask yourself truly the question, what is it that I want? And what is it that I need to be feeling happy and fulfilled? And if you have answered those two questions, then you can craft the plans to how, what you want to achieve and how you're going to get there.
Yeah. And I love it. I just got to add something else. You just made me think, just before we wrap up, Simon Sinek wrote a book on starts with your why.
Yes.
I read that and I thought, no, it starts with your who, because you need to know who you are. Now you're saying you could have something, it starts with your what. What is it that you want? So, I mean, you could write many different books. I mean, they're all very valuable. And
there is no right or wrong, but
no,
is a question, a real question that goes to your true essence, and then you can work on it.
yeah, I love it. Okay, so on that note, you've been a fantastic 151st guest. Do numbers mean anything to you on 5-1?
Yes, they do. My twins are born on the 20th of November 2020, so I did a lot of numerology. Yes, numbers mean something.
Excellent.
And what does it mean for you?
Yeah, numbers mean a lot to me as well. And actually, I used to start dreaming about numbers, and then the next day I was seeing car number plates with the numbers on, and everywhere I looked, I saw the number. But I also know what that means, but that's another story.
That's another story altogether. 1111. There are many meanings for numbers.
Oh yeah, we always see now. Maybe it's just our family, but our friends must think that we're silly, because as soon as we see double numbers together, right, we tap our nose twice. So everybody's like, the kids are shouting out like 2020 or 1111 or 1313 or whatever it is, and everyone's then quickly tapping their nose.
Oh, it becomes a family ritual.
Yeah, it kind of has, right? I don't even know how it started. I think it started with my son, but anyway, we do that, which is quite funny, because when other people are in the house and someone shouts out 1919, we're all going like this. And
what are they doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, you've been a fantastic guest, and we'll be in touch anyway, because we're in the book group, and
Yes.
I'll watch out for your book coming. And for people that want to reach out to you, we'll just put in the speaker notes as well, the best way to contact you.
Yes.
And I've got the links, so I'll share those as well.
Thank you, James. Yes, and best of luck with your new chapter. It's exciting.
Yes, I love it. I love something
Fresh
new.
start. Yes.
Okay, all right. Well,
Good luck
have
with
a great day.
Thank you.
Okay, take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Wow, that was another featured business brought to you by Visibility Impact. If you'd like to be our next featured guest or learn how James Moffatt can help you leverage on the art and power of interactive storytelling for your business, reach out and schedule a call now.